Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Dribble Me Softly podcast, the podcast that you didn't know that you needed to know. How are you both?
Good, thanks, Benny. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Dylan, you?
Very well, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm sad.
Why?
Saudi Arabia.
What about him?
Been here a while now.
Yeah.
It's just not working for me. The other players are depressed. I'm depressed.
How are the managers going?
I don't know. How do we get out of this?
You sack your contract and you fuck off to Amsterdam.
All right, sweet. While I sort out that, what's up on this week's episode?
Good question, mate. Plenty to catch up on in the Premier League and around Europe. Liverpool roll on with a smashing win. Ivan Toney is back on the team sheet and back in the goals, albeit in relatively controversial fashion. We will talk a bit about that. Mikel Arteta's Arsenal back to winning ways. Well done, boys. Hey, not bad. And then a few things around Europe. So we'll talk about Girona pumping Sevilla, some VAR drama in the Real Madrid game. Leverkusen remain undefeated. We've got a couple of debate me topics. Then, guys, I've got a surprise segment for you today as well.
It's back.
It is back. So quite a bit to get through in today's episode.
Honestly, couldn't get much better than this. Moving back from Saudi Arabia and then surprise segment.
Welcome back, mate. Good to have you.
Sweet. All this and more next. So, guys, big start to the week. We'll start with the Prem.
Mm-hmm.
It's back to happier days. Guess what I'm on about?
What are you on about, mate?
Struan. who learned to score?
The fucking Gooners, mate. We got out of our training day fucking uniform and actually put some goals in the back of the net.
So, for the listeners, Arsenal beat Palace 5-0. Well done.
Was it the most boring 5-star performance? Did you watch much of the game? It was absolutely boring.
Yeah, I watched a bit of the game. I didn't watch the whole game, but then I woke up the next morning and watched the highlights.
It's probably the smarter move. Palace was like watching someone terminally ill just fade away towards the end. It was really bad.
Yeah, and there were protests in the stadium as well. I'm not sure if you saw in the away end, questioning the tactics and the potential of the squad.
The on and off the field, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't look good, did it?
Yeah. Any idea what that is about? So are they targeting the manager? Are they targeting the owners?
They were kind of saying...
Is it even the players? Like,
I think it's a bit of both, really. They've been in a holding pattern. They normally hover around like the 10 to 15 mark year on year. And then I think they're seeing the other teams around them invest or at least come up and try.
The thing that I don't understand is they had a decent manager in Patrick Vieira. I know the results weren't going to plan, but at least they were playing a more progressive style of football. And it feels like they've just gone backwards with Roy Hodgson.
Well, if you saw the start of the Arsenal game, it was pretty horrendous how they started. They didn't come there to do anything other than just sit. And then as soon as that went down the pan with the Gabriel goal, then they just undid all of it for him.
Yeah.
Because Arsenal didn't have to do anything in that game. It's actually, I'm still, my takeaway from that, and I think I messaged into the group, was that wasn't convincing.
No. Yeah.
But it's at the time, it's exactly what you need as a Gunners fan, isn't it?
Yeah, the players need some confidence.
Exactly, because when you look at the result, and that's all that really matters is the 3 points and the 5-0.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
It was a bit of a worrying sign when our first 2 goals came from a defender. It didn't really give us much hope.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
then at least after that, some attacking players put the ball in the back of the net.
That's true. So in the second half, it was Leandro Trossard and then Gabby Martinez with a stoppage time double. But before that, in the first half, you did mention...
Martinez, you just renamed him.
Martinelli, Jesus Christ, my bad. And then in the first half, you did mention Gabriel scored the first one and then was actually awarded the second one, but then it was overturned. Was given an own goal. Not sure if you heard over the commentary, but before it was given an own goal, obviously he was on a hat-trick, and the commentators said that a defender has never got a hat-trick in Premier League history.
Isn't that surprising?
It's very surprising. He was on the cusp for a hot moment there, but unfortunately the stat lives on.
We need to stick him up top. Just stick him in there. He's like the Simpson memes. So is that Ralph what gets launched through the window?
Yeah.
It's just him.
I think it was, I don't know if it was, it wasn't last season. I think it was the season before. He was scoring quite consistently. He fell off a little bit, so it's good to see him back.
The only other thing was to note was Trossard. That was the first goal from open play that Trossard has scored for Arsenal that wasn't assisted by Saka.
Who got the assist?
Yep, Jesus.
Jesus, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sweet baby J.
Fair enough.
What about Jorginho's ball for Martinelli's goal?
It was beautiful, wasn't it?
Yeah. People were saying Declan Rice needs to watch how Jorginho plays forward passes.
He's so hesitant on the ball. You could see it in that game as well. Just you need someone to, to say hurry up, just fucking kick it, just take a risk. Oh well, but we can probably leave that there because
before you do, Declan Rice came off in the 73rd minute. Anything to worry about there?
Yeah, something with his hammy, wasn't it?
I haven't seen anything else, but it was suggested that he was carrying a knock.
I think it was a slight tweak of something, considering the scoreline. They probably thought, we'll pull him off, but
I think they got 10 days, and right between that game and the next game anyway.
So okay, fair enough. Because obviously the Liverpool game's around the corner as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, all in all, good to get back into the winner's circle.
Hopefully we can kick on from that. It's good for Martinelli.
I don't mind him off the bat. Like, I don't really mind them interchanging Trossard and Nelly. It's just, I don't hate the fact that it's more so like we need another option for Saka too.
That is true.
What's happened? Like, I just love the guy. There's a lot of pressure. He plays so many games, plays so many minutes, and he gets the treatment, right, of a great player. He gets double teamed half the time. Something's going on anyway. He can't do much, but for there to be a bit of relief for him,
it's a bit risky, isn't it? You got someone like Liverpool, for instance, City. They've got people to replace them, interchange. Probably what Liverpool does so well, to be honest. So many threats. Like, I wouldn't mind, other than I know Arsenal need a striker, but other than someone that can progress the ball quickly in the middle, a winger that could play either side would be great. Competition pushes people on, doesn't it? So,
absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Is there anyone coming through the academy?
I don't think so.
Because ultimately, Saka's an academy boy, right? No one yet? Nothing?
Nothing noteworthy.
Interesting. But yeah, you're right. I mean, you can't put that much pressure, albeit he's an absolute professional, but he's still so early in his career,
Yeah.
Oh, he's so young.
Yeah.
He's so young, and he's played. Hasn't he already played like?
He's played an insane
some
amount
record already for most consecutive games or something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that says enough, I think. And then, like, when you see him not really performing to what we saw him previously doing, you maybe think like, gee, he could probably do with a little break.
Yeah. Anyways, it was a convincing win. I know that when you watch the 90 minutes, it may not speak to the same fashion, but when you look at the scoreline, it was a 5-0. Take the 3 points and you get the heck out of there and on to the next, right?
Speaking of next, do you know another game that involved 5 goals in total?
I sure do. You're referring to Brentford and Forest, aren't you?
Correct. Have you seen the goals in this?
Yeah,
sure
some good goals.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
What about fucking Ivan Toney?
Before we even get to Ivan Toney, Forest scored really early in this match.
What a goal, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Danilo,
yeah. That was a cracker. Let's speak about Ivan Toney because it was his first game back. I think it was about 8 months that he was banned. Was it?
Yeah,
about 8 months or so.
Chunk,
yeah. And it only took him 19 minutes to get back on the score sheet. So it was a free kick.
For the listeners that haven't seen it yet, go and watch it.
Yeah, because it's brilliant, right? Because what's happening is you've got the referee who's what do they call it? It's
they get the little paint out, don't they?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They draw the line, and as soon as he turns his back,
he's moved it, and he's literally moved the paint with it, hasn't it? Yeah,
he's tried his best to move the paint,
and he's done a decent job because the ref obviously didn't pick up on the fact that half the paint's been moved.
How did none of the players protest that? It wasn't like it was a quick thing either, was it? He moved it a couple of times.
Yeah, exactly.
And, fucked around with it.
Yeah, it was an artwork, if you ask me. Yeah, like you done well there. And I'll tell you what, he moved it and put the ball on a dime because it hit the back of the net.
Well, they are fun to watch, though, aren't they?
Oh, I tell you what, like Brentford have had a shocker first half of the season, but Brentford with Ivan Toney is a different beast. And just wait for Mbeumo to come back as well because he's currently away on AFCON duty, right?
True. They're
by no means going to be an easy team in the second part of the season.
I've got to give credit to one of the people that I hate.
Neil Maupay.
He's like a master shithead of everything.
Yep.
But my God, when you take a ball down on the knee like that and turn and put it in the opposite corner, that's
class, isn't it?
That's so good.
Yeah, it was very good. And ultimately it was the winner, wasn't it?
It was. Just leaves you so conflicted, doesn't it, when you see it with players like that?
Yeah, I know. So the final result was 3-2. It was a very, very good game of football, actually. As we've mentioned, some really cracker goals in it as well. Just wanted to touch on Brentford really quickly because obviously, like I said, they've had a relatively shitty start to the first part of the season. They're sitting 16th. No, they're not. Sorry, they're sitting 14th on the table now on 22 points. Do you think they're safe? Do you think that there's going to be any issues with them staying up?
Brentford?
Yep.
No, Brentford are fine.
They're fine? What do you reckon, Stu?
I think they're fine now, yeah.
Yeah. And also credit to the owners because Thomas Frank is a good manager. They've shown and put a lot of faith in him as well. And he's credited them back, hasn't he? So
you can see why Tony won't leave now. You can tell like he owes it to the team now.
Yeah,
for this half of the season at least.
A part of his heart's in the club, right? You can tell he does love the club.
Yeah, you got to respect that.
100%. But he has been very, very transparent and has said that he wants to be competing for trophies. So even if it doesn't happen in this particular window, it's probably more than likely that it will end up happening in one of the next windows to come. 2 front runners have emerged for his signature. 2 London clubs, actually, funnily enough. One being Chelsea and the other being Arsenal. What are your thoughts? Do you reckon as Arsenal fans you're more in line than Chelsea, or do you reckon it's a signing waiting to happen as far as Chelsea are concerned?
Fucking attacking players they need anyway. Like I think he'd probably have more of a chance. Oh, look, I don't even know. I'd like it. I'd take him though. It depends on the money because they're asking like some crazy amounts now, I think.
Also, how much will he want in terms of wages? Because more money, more bets.
Look, if I think put it this way, if a 19, 20-year-old Højlund who's come into the Premier League, right, with, let's be honest, at the time, he did well at Atalanta, but wasn't Prem proven, went for 70 mil. I think somebody who is Prem proven in Ivan Toney is going to go for a hell of a lot more. So you're probably talking about 100 plus.
We have to sell quite a lot of players to make this happen.
Yeah, I don't even know if we'd pay that. I don't even know if we'd pay like 85.
And the thing is, it's funny because you talk about having competition in the team for Saka. I actually think that you bring somebody like Ivan Toney into the team who just slots into that number 9 role, actually might push somebody like a Gabriel to fight for a right wing spot. And it's not out of the question. He's previously played the role.
Gives a lot of flexibility tactically to do so as well, which is, it'd be great to have. And like you say, can then push him out on the right or even the left.
Yep.
Give you another option. It's not out of the question. It's just a question of money.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
He's turning 28 in March, so he's still got like 3-4 solid years in him.
The thing is, it's funny because he talks about wanting to fight for titles, and if you look at the 2 teams that are gunning for a signature, there's only one team really that is fighting for titles there, and it ain't fucking Chelsea, right? So surely you'd think that Arsenal would be front runners for a signature in the end there. But like I said, it's obviously not going to happen in this transfer window, but one to look out for in one of the future ones to come.
Yeah,
definitely.
That takes us on to another game. Finished 2-2.
Yeah.
Did you see the Sheffield versus West Ham game?
Quite an eventful one, this one.
Tell you what. Red cards, yellow cards.
Penalties,
everything. Yeah.
It's a bit frantic.
It was. And for the listeners, what was the final score, Ben?
It was 2-2.
Yeah, it was. It was 1-1 at halftime and then a 2-2 finish.
To be fair, Sheffield were good value.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, at home.
At home, yeah, they were a bit unlucky to be down 1-0.
Yep.
Equaliser was deserved.
Yeah, right before halftime.
Silly penalty, though, to give away. Well, 2 silly penalties in this game, really, because the West Ham goal came from a penalty which you just don't kick someone down there.
Yeah, exactly.
That was really stupid. But my favourite was Fabianski and the Wonder Punch.
I like that, the Wonder Punch.
Yeah. Because I can't see how a goalkeeper could get a free kick for something like that. So that penalty was definitely justified. But they could have just held on. The penalty was 103rd minute.
Yep.
Very late.
It was very late.
But it went to VAR and stuff, right? So that probably wasted some time, didn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But Sheffield United showing some life?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's... Chris Wilder's only been back in the job for, about a month or so now, I reckon, fellas. But yeah, like, obviously managers need time, but you're right. I think under the previous manager, this is probably a fixture that they would have lost, right? So you take the point. Obviously, it still doesn't look good as far as they're concerned when you look at the Premier League table.
No, they're still 7 points off Everton. Same amount of games played, but yeah, rock bottom of the league.
That's right.
It's like trucking along nicely, though. West Ham, I know they could have done... Well, it would have been nicer for them to get a win, but they're 6th. 5 points off Tottenham.
That result was definitely 2 points lost for West Ham because you're right, they're not too far off the pace for that 5th spot, albeit now that we know that there's only 4 Premier League teams that will make it to the Champions League next season.
Yeah.
But also to just keep that gap that they had on United as well. It is what it is, but a tour, I guess you take the point. You'd much rather take a point than walk out with none taken at the end of it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Save a bit of face.
Absolutely.
And sadly, I'm going to have to eat my words here, but let's move on to your team. And old mate finally scored some goals. What happened?
Yeah, so we played at a stupid hour this morning. It was 3:30 a.m.
Did you get up and watch it?
No, I didn't, because I had an early start for work this morning. I did, though, watch the highlights this morning and then actually just had the playback on while I was working today. But yeah, so the result was 4-0. It was actually 0-0 at half-time. This was a very interesting fixture as far as any Liverpool fan would be concerned, because when you look at the form table, Bournemouth and Liverpool were the two informed teams over the Christmas period, even into early December. Playing away at the Vitality with this current team, no easy feat. So to go there and to win convincingly, it was 4-0. Núñez scored 2 and Jota scored 2. Look, the thing is, right, when you look at what everyone says online, people say no Salah, no Liverpool, but I think we're quickly proving that that's not the case.
Now you're starting to see this front three develop. By the way, the first goal was beautiful.
Oh, yeah, that ball from Jota through to Núñez and that first time finish to the bottom corner was beautiful. Yeah,
is that touch before that to Núñez though?
Yep.
On the chest and then quickly passed through. I thought that was really nice. But it just goes to show what he moved Núñez, didn't he, out onto left to start the second half?
That's right.
Is this making you feel like I know what Salah's a massive hole to fill? But he's getting older.
Yep.
Would you start to consider selling him for an obscene amount of money to Saudi, knowing that you've got this behind you? Like,
it's a great question. I'm a very sentimental bloke, and being very sentimental, I want to see Mo retire at Liverpool because he is genuinely a Liverpool legend. And look, obviously, when you look at it from a business perspective, you'd take 150, 200 mil that Saudi throw your way, because ultimately that's money that you can reinvest back into the squad. And ultimately, when you have really stingy owners like FSG for Liverpool FC, then you want to take any money that comes your way. But no, if you're asking me personally, no, I want Mo to retire at Liverpool.
Interesting.
Yeah. It is what it is. Look, we continue. Obviously, there's a fixture midweek where we've got Fulham in the second leg of the semi-final of the Carabao Cup.
Yep.
I think it is. But when you look at the table, you see a nice little 5-point lead, albeit City have played one game less. So
yeah, shaping up nicely for the second half of the season.
It is.
See how it goes. Speaking of City, did you see that Omar Barado guy?
He moved to United, right? What was his role at City?
Sporting director.
Right.
Wow.
And he's now Man U CEO.
Wow.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's all out of nowhere as well.
So sporting director and manager are two roles at City that, like, if United have got a hold of one of those two, then that's interesting.
Well, this guy is credited with signing Haaland.
Interesting. And can you just, for the listeners, Ben, just go through the role of a sporting director? What is it that they do?
A sporting director, many different hats. They're there to make sure that the team can challenge now, or they're set up for now and the future. But this is across, men's, female, youth, like academy, all sorts.
Yep.
So this could actually be really good for Man United, because it sounds like Ineos are looking a bit more down the line than...
Yep. Future proofing, future planning almost, you would say. Yeah, and you're right, Ben. Thank you for that. Like, sporting directors ultimately get, in many clubs, final say over across transfers in and out as well, right? So,
to be fair, I think it's a really good move, because if you look at how short-sighted Man U have been with some of their signings, and they keep getting stuck into that holding pattern of getting has-beens or people on the way out, it's good. It's good for them. Do you know what? It's good for everyone. Europe and other
100%.
Where do you want to start? Not League On.
Bundes.
Yeah, let's go to Bundesliga.
Going on in Germany.
What is going on in Germany, Stru?
Well, fucking not Dortmund. Bayern lost and Leverkusen won, so I think they're 7 points clear now.
Interesting.
I think Bayern has a game in hand though, but 7 points clear is 7 points clear.
You are absolutely right. So Bayern have played one game less, but there is a 7-point gap between 1 and 2 now.
I think second week in a row they've scored 90th minute winners.
Yeah.
Leverkusen.
Missing a couple of players as well because of AFCON.
When you're in a good moment, you're in a good moment, right?
Yeah, they're just carrying on, man.
How outrageous is the stats now? It just gets more... Like, I know we talk about this each week, but it looks ridiculous. 85 goals scored this season. Was it... How many wins? 25?
Yeah, I forgot, including
3
their
draws.
cup wins.
Yeah, including Cup in Europa, it'll be through the roof now.
How outrageous is that?
It's insane. I think the more it goes on, the crazier it gets. And the thing that I kind of relate it to is Leicester's 2015-16 title winning year. Because, they got to Christmas and they were top of the league, and then you're almost like, okay, cool, they're there, but it's kind of not going to last. When are they going to fall off? But to their credit, they didn't.
You almost sometimes think might not hurt them to lose a game, so then there's they don't have the pressure of not winning every single game, but they just look like they're playing without that.
Yeah.
They look so cool, so calm. Leave it to late, whatever. They can win comfortably. They can come from behind.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, though, right in the moment, they're doing everything they need to do.
100%.
The pressure builds up closer to the end of the season, though, when you know that the title is right there in front of you, and that's when, teams like Bayern will come to the fore and put on runs of 10, 11 wins in a row and will go win the league. And that's really when you need Leverkusen to be on their game.
I don't know about Bayern, though, because they've got a lot of bottle juice building up now. They've got Kane, I know, delivering goals, but Eric Dyer.
They've got Eric Dyer too.
There's a bit of a dodgy smell coming from that changing room. And Trippier.
Trippier's been... Yeah.
Yes, Trippier has been linked, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Newcastle do not want to sell.
Which is quite funny because Newcastle have to sell.
Which is funny because Newcastle are in financial strife at the moment, aren't they?
Dun, dun, dun.
Which is funny because Newcastle are the richest club in the world, aren't they?
Yeah. Isn't it kind of like the curse of the Newcastle fan?
They
finally get what everyone's been wanting for 20 odd years.
Yeah.
And then the rules finally start to be enforced.
Yeah.
It's next I'll be asking for Mike Ashley back. Just give it.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that'd be a sad life. Oh, another note. Sancho may not have got an assist for this, but he did get a penalty for Dortmund.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
So,
did they win?
Yeah, they won 4-0.
They won 4-0, did they?
Yeah.
Wow.
Dortmund on a bit of a run at the moment.
So I did see something on social media circulating in that 4-0 win against Köln. It was Füllkrug that took the penalty, but Sancho was asking for the ball because he wanted to take the penalty.
Really?
Yeah, and the penalty taker, Füllkrug, apologies because my pronunciation is atrocious, but he was like, no, I'm the penalty taker, and then he took the penalty. They scored it. He took the goal. He scored the goal. But yeah, very interesting there. Just a small moment on the field.
Watch Sancho not turn up for training this week.
Yeah, it could be the fucking start of something.
Yeah, he's going to protest. It's over.
Yeah, but you're right, Ben. They've had, in the last 2 matches, they've both been away and they've put on 4-0s and 3-0s.
Well, more importantly as well, Leipzig are, losing out a bit there as well. Leipzig?
Yeah, Leipzig.
Yeah. So it's tight running up in that league as well, apart from the top 2.
Yeah, the top 2 have taken away.
Yeah.
Massively. There's a massive gap. So Leverkusen 48 at the moment, Bayern 41, and then Stuttgart, credit to Stuttgart, sitting in 3rd place on 34 points. So 7 points.
14 points between 1st and 3rd.
Exactly right. That's correct. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But then it's very tight between 3 and all the way down to 6, really. You're talking about 5 or 6 points between the rest of them. So it's close. It's close.
And most of the leagues are shaping out quite nicely, aren't they, to an extent?
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Quite intrigued to see how the Champions League format works out as well, because isn't it Germany and Italy are due to get 2 extra spaces or 1 extra space each?
Well, I'm actually not sure, Ben.
I think so, that at the halfway point in terms of Euro competitions.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. All the Spanish teams top their group in the Champions League.
It's not Spanish, it's the Italian and the
Interesting,
Germans.
It's the Italian and the German
Yeah.
league. Okay, yeah, I find that quite interesting because of that point. Like, you think that because the Spanish league topped, all the teams top their groups, that they would be credited with the extra spots. But, I think it's a nice sort of segue to move on into La Liga. So what's been happening in La Liga?
It's true. What did you witness earlier?
The Madrid game?
Yeah, the Madrid game.
Oh, that was just some fucking VAR galore, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
They went to the monitor for every single goal.
So the final result, firstly, it was Real Madrid versus Almeria, and the score finished 3-2.
Yep. Almeria scored in the first like 35 seconds or 40 seconds.
Yep, they sure
and then
did.
scored again, so it was 2-0 at halftime.
It was 2-0 at halftime, yeah. But then obviously Papa Perez went and paid off the VAR officials at halftime because all hell broke loose, didn't it?
It did reek of corruption. This is some weird shit going on in this game.
Yep. So Bellingham scores a penalty in the 57th minute.
Yes, and then oh my god, dude!
Go on.
What is that? Like he's just got his bicep and just like pushed it into the goal.
Yeah.
And then the goal was looked at and it stood.
The funny thing is that point is VAR looked at it. I think with the naked eye you can tell that that's not a genuine goal.
Yeah,
you know?
It's not like he's being pushed into it either. He's actually all over the defender himself.
Exactly right. Yeah.
and his arm comes away from his body.
Yeah.
Like so, he's like trying to hit the ball with his arm.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
It's pretty harsh. The only consolation is the defender that scored Almira's second goal. Well, he's playing in defence. Don't know what he's doing that far out the pitch, but that was a bit of a rocket.
Fucking finish.
Yeah.
We went over that one. Yeah, that was a good goal.
But ultimately heartbreaking in the end, right? Because it was a 99th minute winner. Carvajal takes the credit.
Yeah, denies Almira a draw, and Almira also are still winless.
It's crazy. They're still winless in the league.
Yeah.
Poor bastards.
That's got to feel for that. Got to feel for him, eh? Like,
Do you know who wasn't a poor bastard this week though? Xavi.
yeah, that's true.
All the weird articles that are coming out and us shitheads on a podcast speculating about his future after them winning the league last year. 4-2.
Yep, against Betis.
Yes. Cisco tried his best as a former Madrid player to upset that.
Cisco or Isco? You're thinking
Cisco. Fucking hell. I don't know what I'm thinking of actually. What's Cisco?
Yeah.
Huh?
It's like a tech brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tech brand.
Yeah.
He's also a singer, right? Cisco.
I'm trying to
I
think.
think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to Google it.
You know the thong song?
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one.
Well, Xavi might be in his thong dancing after that one because he's got another. he's got some breathing space. Although they did concede two. I don't know how Isco's hamstring is still there for the second one, but his first goal is a lovely half volley. And then, Real Sociedad keeping pace as well. Although someone that did drop some points, Athletic Club.
That's true. Yep.
Bilbao.
Yes.
But
Girona
Girona,
still on top, yeah?
5-1. They beat Sevilla.
Smacked them.
Gave them a whooping, didn't they?
Does Sergio Ramos need to retire now? Because he's gone there. They're playing a back five and they're getting pumped 5-1 by Girona.
Actually, you're right.
It almost feels like they have gone backwards since he rejoined with the club, doesn't it?
Yeah, I haven't actually read into what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad because I don't think they'll get relegated. I hope not.
No, I doubt it. I think they're strong enough to stay up. But Sevilla's a team you associate with competing in Europe every year, right?
Oh, mate, they're perennial bloody Europa League winners.
Yes, they are.
They've won like 4 times.
That's correct. So currently they are sitting 17th in the league and they are only 1 point outside of the relegation zone. So, look, it's very tight. But you back a team like Sevilla with their kind of heritage, right, to stay up, and you kind of want to see it happen too.
Yeah. It'd be very strange. It'd be like the first time I saw Deportivo La Coruña get relegated. Because when I was a kid, they used to be in the Champions League.
Remember that player we signed from them? Lucas Perez?
Yeah, he was an interesting character.
Yeah.
Wasn't the worst.
No, he wasn't the worst. I agree. It was desperate fucking times for us, though.
Bring him back. We need more goals.
We need those goals. We don't need those Puma kits, though.
Can I ask you guys a question? So, like, on the weekly, we go around all the teams, all the comps in Europe. Do you guys really think that the Premier League is the best league in the world?
Yeah, 100%.
What makes it the best league in the world?
Competitiveness.
But then I could argue and say that it's not very competitive if one team is winning it every single year.
Good point. Do you know what does strike me of this? I was thinking about the Super League and stuff and why Europe also, like mainland Europe, struggles a bit with this. And I do wonder if it's because the English language is more universal, so it makes it more appealing in a weird way. Because like all of the stuff which supports the game, because like people listen to podcasts, read stuff. Like we're always checking Fabrizio Romano's Twitter for bloody silly updates.
It's time that Fabrizio has a competitor because he's starting to post absolute fucking bullshit.
We literally were talking about this just before you came.
Fair
He's just
enough.
posting like injury updates.
Yeah. The blokes
stuff.
lost out on his touch. But sorry to interrupt.
Maybe that's a tease for a debate me softly question later. But I think the stuff which supports it, because I find this with American sports, lots of it's about the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same can be said about the Premier League as well, is the stories which go with it. And I think traditionally as well, lots of people get invested in hating different fan groups as well, because it's the banter side of it, and everyone, gets wound up by the stats and the memes and all sorts. Don't really see the same thing for foreign leagues. Not as much, or you're not that exposed. So
I agree. I think at the same time we probably also pay a lot more attention to the Premier League, so we are more like we have fucking bias in this, but like it's good. Like when they're selling the story of the Prem and they're selling the history. I know it's FA Cup's different, but they're selling the history of like the FA Cup with the docos and all that sort of stuff. It sort of hits you a bit.
All that is true, and you're right. I guess we're a lot closer to the Prem, which is why, obviously, first and foremost, it's our focus and what we refer to. You guys are Liverpool fans. You guys are Arsenal fans. I'm a Liverpool fan. So naturally, that's where our attention's for. But the thing is, right? Like if we, and you answered it very quickly, Stu. You said that the Premier League is the best competition in the world. How long has it been the case for? Would you say? Like, when did that shift happen? When did that shift go? Because I could argue, 10 years ago, it was La Liga that probably had the best competition, albeit because of Real Madrid and Barcelona. So let's say 2015, then Pep comes in 2016. So when did that shift take place? Would you kind of argue that it aligns with Pep moving to City?
It definitely was a shift from La Liga to Premier League. I will agree with that.
I think some of it is like cyclical though as well. Because I remember as a kid, the Serie A was like
huge.
Was huge.
Yeah.
And like it was really. I think some of the differences as well is like that is more accessible. Was more accessible back then. Now we were talking before about all these streaming platforms and then how much of a ball ache it is to subscribe to them or navigate them or just to watch a couple of games. It's fatigue. Whereas we know you can just easily go to like a Premier League app or like Optus or something, and it's easy for us to watch. It's a bit different. Because I remember when I was a kid, I could just put on Channel 4 and Serie A would be on. I'm like, watching a game of football.
I guess that's also a tribute to the fact that in the 2000s it was AC Milan, right?
Yeah.
They had the best team in the world.
They just had all the players.
Superstars, and that's kind of why you go to Channel 4 and you see Serie A on, because all the big players are playing in that competition.
Even Inter and Juve, like look at the players that have gone through these teams.
Absolutely.
Like,
exactly right. Yeah, absolutely. It's just interesting because obviously I think we all agree that the Prem is at this point in time, the best competition in the world.
Has to be.
But then when you look at Europe, English teams have in the past 5 to 10 years done well in terms of having presence in finals. But really, I guess Liverpool have won it, Chelsea have won it, and City have won it. But then
Spurs made a final.
Yeah, Spurs made a final. That's true. Obviously, Liverpool have made 3 finals in that time, but Real Madrid have won a lot of finals in that time as well. So how can we sit here and say that the Prem is the best competition in the world if we can argue that Real Madrid have been the best team in the last 10 years? It's just interesting. It's food for thought.
So it's quite interesting. So I'm just looking up the so UEFA did this 5-year club ranking thing. It kind of ties into what they do with countries, the coefficient stuff.
Which is why Belgium have been number 1 for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Anyways.
No. Well, there's different one they actually do for the leagues as well, which matters when it comes to Champions League spots, which are allocated.
Yep.
If we're just going to look at the top 10, it's actually quite well split. So you've got Man City at number 1, then Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, PSG, Liverpool in 5th, then Inter at 6th, then Leipzig 7th, who are joint 7th, with Chelsea. Then you've got United 9th, Roma 10th, Dortmund 11th. So
when was this last updated?
It was updated on the 18th of December.
Interesting. And it's based off the last 5 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so there's a calculator and stuff and the total points. And then they'll add up these and they'll put them into the league and then that will rank that league. So like the Premier League has the highest coefficient.
Yeah. Can you just go through that top 5 again?
Top 5, City.
Yep.
Bayern Munich. Mm-hmm. Madrid.
Yeah. PSG.
Liverpool.
So all 5 you can say have competed in a Champions League final in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. So if you're rewarded more for like your your standing in Europe, really. Because like Chelsea, for instance, they don't have anything for last year.
Yeah.
Or for this year, sorry. But they have something for last year.
And then you'd assume over the course of the next few years, their ranking would take a hit because they weren't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, for example, if we were to use, where have they disappeared on here? If you were to use Arsenal, for instance, where they qualified 8th, 2021,
Yep.
that meant 2021-22, there was 0 points they could earn.
Understood.
So they're down in 21st. Someone like West Ham, for instance, though, they have only been in Europe for the last 3 seasons. So before that, the 2 seasons, there's no points for them. It's an interesting way of doing things.
Yeah, that is interesting. Cool. But I think that pretty much covers everything that we wanted to for this segment, right? Is there anything that we've missed, Stu?
We need to say sorry to Jose and the Roma fans.
That is true. Yes, it kind of all shit hit the fan when you talk about the love affair. It was kind of the beginning of the end. So I almost think like you cursed it, Ben.
I'm reading that the fans are not happy about this. Probably not happy with me. Clearly, I encouraged the owners to sack him.
Yeah, you put the thought out in the universe, and it just so happened that it played out that way.
Maybe it is all your fault.
I'm sorry, Jose. But
You're sorry, Roma fans.
No, I'm not.
You bastard.
He shouldn't have abused Wenger way back when. No, he's a specialist in nothing. No, that's harsh.
That's that sideline tough between those two when he pushes him, and oh mate, that's iconic. That shit is.
Well, we can quickly touch on Serie A because it's actually quite tight there.
Yeah.
So Juve went top this week. Vlahovic scored a couple more and a 3-0 win. So they're 1 point ahead of Inter with a game in hand. AC Milan are not far behind as well. But what I wanted to touch on is, speaking of Roma, they actually won. Cruel irony. 1-2-1. But I read something about Jose because he was obviously linked with talking with Saudi Arabian teams straight away. But he preferably wants to stay in Italy. Do you know a club which is also in disarray in Italy with some nice players?
Napoli.
There you go.
Oh.
Do you think he could end up down in the south of Italy?
Interesting.
You know what? I feel like Napoli would be like a very suitable club for him.
Yeah, I kind of think
it just sort of has a bit of Jose about it.
Can kind of see it. Yeah. I kind of agree. If that keeps him away from Newcastle, then let's fucking make it happen.
What's more likely, him at Newcastle or him at Chelsea?
Fuck, neither.
Him at Newcastle or him at Chelsea?
He's not going back to Chelsea.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. You never know. You can't say never because
Todd wouldn't have him.
You know what they say, right? Third time's a charm. So
he only lasts like 2 to 3 years in each spot anyway. Might be enough to get Chelsea in a course correction.
What's he made 80 mil off sackings or something like that?
Yes. Remember what I said to you both the other day?
Yeah.
How depressing is it knowing that he gets more from sackings than I'll ever make working in my entire lifetime?
Insanity, man.
It's fucking depressing as shit.
Well, let's not finish on a sad note.
Yeah, let's not.
So let's think of happy thoughts. So we're going to take a quick break and then we'll come back with Debate Me Softly.
That is correct. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. It was a short little break. We're talking about a lot of random shit, weren't we? Got sidetracked so many times. But we are back, and it is time for Debate Me Softly. Are we ready?
That sounded a little bit robotic then.
Debate Me Softly.
AI?
Yeah.
Is that you?
That's me. It's me.
My.
How are we feeling about today? We ready?
Yes.
Yeah?
I'm ready.
There's only a couple of questions today. We'll kick start. So obviously January is transfer time, right? Let's be honest. There's 2 transfer windows that happen. So there's one that happens, a bigger one that happens in the summer, in the European summer, and then a winter transfer that happens in January of every year. My question to the both of you is this the worst transfer window of recent history?
Might be for Bayern. Now they've got Eric Dyer.
and the reason that I asked the question is because, let's be honest, there's not been much happening. I mean, we've had a few transfers here and there, and I think going back to something that we spoke about in the previous segment, you know that it's been a shit transfer window when Fabrizio's talking about injuries and results and this, that, and the other, and not really much about transfers.
So shit is a bit subjective because, like, shit in what sense?
The worst.
Just overall, like in lack of activity, lack of big activity.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was just like lack of signings, right? And you can see there are clubs that need work. There are clubs that need players, but they're just so scared of what's going on in the financial space.
Bingo.
Right?
That's the key.
To spend any money. And it just made it. Usually you look forward to transfer windows. You got Fabrizo staying up midnight. He's posting like
Bloke doesn't sleep during transfer windows.
breaking news.
Yeah.
Like nothing. What? Like Spurs signed the defender.
Honestly, how many here we goes have we had this window?
You know, it's crazy. I'm currently looking at this now, and so far there's been 218 deals this January.
Yep. Fair enough.
And we can barely name them.
And I think it shows that there's movement, yes, but there's not movement where we expect the movement to be.
There's lots of loans. Lots.
So, Stu, you made a very interesting point just then about how teams need to spend. There is room in squads, there is positions available in squads in some of these really big teams that are fighting for titles. That it's quite weird because they haven't been spending, and I think you alluded to the fact as to why, and that's because of the FFP breaches, and I think it's time that the clubs are kind of realizing that okay, there are rules in play. And for the past 5 or 6 windows when clubs like Chelsea have been spending more than £200 million in a window, you have the other clubs that say, yes, FFP exists, but it's not really, nothing's really being done about it, right? Yeah, correct. That's the right word. It's not being enforced. But now I think it is being enforced, and we've seen that already with the likes of Everton, and a date's now been set for Man City's hearing. Mm-hmm. So is that the reason ultimately that clubs aren't spending? Is because now there's consequences for how and when you, and ultimately where you spend your money.
Yeah. I mean, that would make the most sense, right? Mm-hmm. Because in windows gone by, as you just touched on, like clubs have been going crazy. There'd be signings galore.
Correct, yeah. Especially because you look at, like for these teams that are sitting fighting for titles, you look at your squad, you look at where you're lacking the strength, and you ultimately want to invest money into that spot.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're fighting for titles.
Exactly. And you're never guaranteed to be there like every year, right? So when you have an opportunity, you'd like to just cement your spot up there. But yeah, look, I don't know. I can't really see it changing. How much longer is the window open for? Another week?
Yeah, about 9 or 10 days. We do know that ultimately a lot of transfer movement does happen on the final day.
Yeah.
Because deadline day is very busy. And in the past, especially in the January transfer window, we've seen some very big deadline day moves. So obviously at this stage of the window, it's been quite uneventful. That's not to say that in the next 10 days things could heat up, but I think we've kind of broken down as to why it probably won't with FFP charges. Ben, what do you have to say?
If the FFP stuff is actually being enforced and we get a shit transfer window, then I'm kind of happy about it, to be honest. I think, like in terms of the long-term health of the game, because if it's actually going to work and other leagues are going to enforce it as well, it may actually balance things out a bit more, I think. The Premier League has so much money now. You can't pay 65 million for Havertz or 70 million for Højlund. And if it doesn't work out, you can't get rid of them because no one else can buy them unless they're a Premier League club.
Yeah.
So, I reckon this might be a little bit of a trend. This might happen a bit more.
It's interesting because, like, over the past few windows, like I've said before, we've seen teams like Chelsea, Arsenal, United, City over the past few years spend inexorbitant amounts of money. And the trend was, even the three of us had previous segments prior to the transfer window where we broke down where we think clubs are going to invest their money, and stuff like that. And you look back now, it's kind of like, well, nothing's happened. Yeah, correct. None of that's happened. Yeah. So it begs the question, is this the start of a new trend? And are we going to see lack of investment from some bigger clubs because of the potential of FFP breaches?
Maybe clubs are going to actually start spending what they're able to spend.
Might lower prices.
And we've already seen, like in the previous transfer window, we had Chelsea who put all their players on 8, 9, 10-year contracts. The Premier League were very quick to act actually and stop that, and now Chelsea haven't made a single signing, a single big signing, I should say, in this transfer window.
Yep.
Maybe the summer, we could also be calm before the storm, because in the summer, once all the competition money's handed out again, they could just rearm everyone in the Premier League or respective clubs around Europe, and here we go again.
Yeah, see, the thing with this upcoming transfer window is it falls at a very interesting time because of the Euros.
Yes.
And ultimately for teams looking to bring players in, you either want to do that business beforehand. Actually, you'd kind of want to do that business beforehand, right? Because you don't want to wait till closer to the end of the tournament and the start of the league for you to bring players in. But then the flip to that is you bring somebody in, they go play the Euros, they get injured, and they're going to be missing for 6 months. So where's that balance?
There's a fine line, right? Because then maybe you wait a bit too long. This guy goes and has like an absolute worldy tournament.
Yep.
Price goes through the roof.
Correct.
5 other clubs want him.
Yeah.
You don't get him anymore.
So. Yeah.
Then he goes to a life of happiness in Saudi Arabia.
It's funny because like you talk about that, players do well in tournaments and then go get massive transfers. The one player that comes to my mind, who is it? James Rodriguez. Yeah. It's crazy because it's living proof that because he had an unreal tournament for Colombia in that 2014 World Cup. Unfucking real.
One of the best, yeah.
Yeah. And Real snapped him up the moment they could.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. I guess like in terms of answering the question that I had for you, is it the shittest window in recent years? What do you say?
100%.
In terms of movement or like even like
or lack thereof,
movement,
right?
Yeah, no move, yeah, I'd say so. But like Ben said, if they're finally getting their shit together and clamping down in terms of FFP, then yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah, so just on FFP, we know that the date has been set for Man City's hearing, but I don't know as to exactly when that is the case.
Nor do I. So when you started this off, I was quickly having a look at this, and it's like the date still could be in 2026 or something outrageous. So who knows? And also on that note, what was it? The Everton Nottingham Forest thing, their possible point deductions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the decision date is the week after the Premier League season finishes?
Is it?
What's the fucking point in that? Sorry for the language, listeners, but that's a bit harsh, isn't it? The season's done and like, well, you have to wait around for a week to find out if you've lost points and you're potentially relegated or whatnot. Oh, true. It's really poor form.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, especially like it takes all that emotion away from those final few weeks as well, right? Especially for teams knowing that they're fighting for a place, in the Premier League next season.
They need to at least indicate what's the possible points deduction total,
so
they can
work towards setting goals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you tell the team, let's act as if we have got that point deduction.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah, 100%. No, that's a very interesting one, and definitely one that we should keep on top of what actually goes on. And it's interesting because we just spoke about Man City's date being set. We don't know the date, but then how quickly they move on clubs like Everton and Nottingham Forest.
Because they haven't got money to fight it.
But it's not fair. You know what I mean? You have a set of rules, and the rules aren't dictated by how wealthy you are. They're rules. They're blankets. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So yeah, that's really not fair. But let's leave it there.
The Man City thing, sorry, just to end on that, was the cases were opened or they started investigating them in 2018. We're 5 years on.
6 now, Ben. 2024 we're in.
Fuck. This makes a lot of sense. I'll get there. All right, on that note.
On to the next? Yeah, cool. The next question, right now we have 2 continental tournaments happening concurrently. So we've got the African Cup of Nations, or AFCON for short, and we've got the Asia Cup. So my question to the both of you is, should these continental tournaments, like AFCON and the Asia Cup, be held outside of the European football season?
Yes. But how are they going to compete? How could either of these competitions compete with the Euros?
Yeah.
For viewership? Or why still the World Cup?
That's a fair point, but the Euros happen every 4 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that all of these need to happen in the one season, the one end of season between and pre-season of the European season, but the Euros are held outside of the European football season. And the thing is, let's be honest, there is a lot of prestige and heritage in South American football, but other than that, everyone looks at the European football game. Players across the world, whether you're from Europe or whether you're from Asia or whether you're from South America or whether you're from Africa, want to go play in Europe because all the best teams and the best competitions are in Europe, right?
Yep.
So then why are these continental tournaments held in the middle of a season? And I want you to look at it from 2 perspectives. So I want you to look at it from a player's perspective and then from a fan's perspective. And then tell me what your thoughts are.
So it's tough for players because for example, like Son or Mo.
Yep.
Like you can tell, like they love their club. They've been playing at their clubs for years now, 6-7 years.
That's
at
right.
least.
They have.
Right?
Yep.
And they obviously want to win trophies and help their team, but they obviously so patriotic at the same time. So it puts them in such a shit position to say, look, I'm going to sit out what could be 3, 4, 5, 6 Premier League games to play for their country.
It's a very interesting thing that you talk about, Stu, because you're right. Like, obviously, for these players that play in really big Premier League and other European teams that are fighting for titles, you want to be part of that ride. But then ultimately, you want to play for your country. I believe it's still, for a player, the pinnacle is to play for your country and to win a competition for your country. It's an interesting one because from a player's perspective, where do you draw the line of, I want to play? And then the other thing is, like, you go to a competition for your country and then you get injured. And I'm referencing Mo.
Yeah.
Who's just done his hammy, I think it is, and is actually on his way back to Liverpool now for rehab. Now he's in a position where he's not playing for club or country because of an injury that happened during a tournament.
Now he's got to go through rehab during a season.
Correct, exactly.
Or depending how long it takes, right? You could be out for a while.
Well, it goes back to that point, Stu. I just said players want to play for their club and their country, but then if a major international tournament is held during the football season and he gets injured, which he's got injured now, he's not playing for club and he's not playing for country. So ultimately he's the loser because these two competitions are still running.
Yeah.
Right? So scheduling is very important, and scheduling is one thing that's become, I guess a hot topic for managers as well more recently because of the amount of competitions that players enter into from a domestic point of view, but then also from an international point of view as well. So I don't know, like, is there value in holding these tournaments outside of the football season or domestic season?
Who's going to care about watching Kazakhstan versus Saudi Arabia?
You may not, Ben. You may not. But there's people out in the world that will. And that's very disrespectful of you to say that.
It is, but that's how they're looking at it, people with money.
Yeah, I guess commercial, like for rights and things like that.
All of, like...
In terms of revenue.
The revenue, history of the sport, all like, it's a bit colonial to kind of say it, but that's where it is. And... But that's not going to draw it in because sadly the grassroots are not there for these countries or for not enough of these countries, and therefore the value of the product is not of something which is the Euros or Copa America. It's the same as that Asia Cup as well because, like, with all due respect to even Australia, it's the same. It's the same thing. Because it's not the grassroots or the consistency and quality. Then it doesn't draw enough people into that, which is shit, and people should actually look more into that because one thing I did observe after moving to Australia is actually there's a shit ton of kids that play football and love it. You guys grew up with it, and I find that really sad that the grassroots model here doesn't enable you to actually move in and have a competitive league because terrible. The setup is crazy where, compared to where in Europe the pyramid is there, it's really disheartening, and that's the same thing with, like, Africa, and it's the same thing in parts of Asia. It's not supported enough, which then you don't have the development because it takes years to get here. And this is what Saudi Arabia is going to find out with their pro league as well. Is like there's years and years of investment. There's years and years of kids, like 3-4-year-olds who kick a football.
That everything you said is very true, Ben. And sorry to interrupt, but the model works in only a few countries in Europe. It doesn't work in every country in Europe, but still there are so many countries in Europe that participate in the Euros. Ultimately, there's only a handful of countries that are going to win it and have a choice, like have a proper shot at winning it. Similarly, in Asia, you've only got a handful of teams that are actually competitive and go to a World Cup and be competitive.
But then it comes down to leagues again, though. Look at the countries that do the best with this. They have the stronger leagues. It stems right from the investment in the bottom. And then it works its way up.
Argentina won the 2022 FIFA World Cup, right? They do not have the strongest league in the world. They don't even have a strong league to begin with. So then, like, I get what you're saying, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
But they have a stronger league than what you find in the Middle East or Asia or Africa. They just have better facilities and a better setup. It's honestly, it's what it comes down to. It's crazy to make the same comment about some of those teams in South America as well, like Peru. Peru versus, well, actually, it's bad one because Peru have been quite fun for the last few years.
Yeah, Peru decent.
Guatemala, it's more like Central America,
Guatemala
versus Panama. Yep. I'm not going to jump out of bed to watch that. Maybe some bettors that are obsessed would. But that's the same thing. But that could also be the same. But same said about San Marino and Liechtenstein.
Exactly.
Europe.
Yeah.
So
correct.
It's just the weighting is a bit different, because if you look at it in terms of look at France's football, look where all their players are across the world. Like, that's an incredible team. The English team, not too bad. Like, if you look at it in that way, there's more teams that are stronger, like, or more nationalities in terms of, like, you know, developing players in those areas. So in Europe, then South America, then you'd find typically in Asia and Africa.
You know, it's interesting because I think you're definitely on a. You made a great point. I think ultimately the other thing that it could come down to is just how popular is not the right word. It's probably how successful the European game is, because you don't have players who play for European teams who want to go and venture out and play in South America. But on the flip to that, you have fucking great players from South America who want to come and play in Europe. So is it also a little bit of because the European competition or the European domestic competition is so strong that it gives that kind of prominence to the European international game as well? Like, do you see where I'm kind of where I'm kind of drawing these two and trying to bring them together to, like, from? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's really difficult. But the hard thing is as well, the precedent is already set. So to actually disrupt that is also going to be a very hard thing to do. The product needs to be consistently good for a number of years to eat away at the right to kind of change or do it. Unless someone just comes in and just tips on its head and then makes it stick, then maybe that could happen too.
The thing is, there's still so many players from the European football, domestic football teams that go and play in the likes of AFCON.
Oh, there's
heaps.
Like
I think we can count 30 or so from the Premier League alone who've gone to AFCON.
Yeah.
You know?
But is it quite interesting? I don't know if Ivory Coast are even in AFCON, but I know Zaha scored for Galatasaray.
I'm pretty sure Ivory Coast are hosting AFCON.
Oh, he didn't even go. Zaha didn't even go to...
Did he?
Didn't even go. No, because he scored yesterday for Galatasaray.
Interesting.
It would be nice if they're... Well, I'm talking from a place of luxury, to be fair. Very lucky to grow up where I grew up. Africa doesn't have the same facilities, or people don't have the same access to even watch the sport as well.
It's very important that you mention that, Ben, because ultimately, like, we have a World Cup, a football World Cup that's hosted every 4 years. But ultimately, let's be honest, there's only a few teams in every World Cup that have a proper shot of winning the World Cup.
Yep.
Right? In 2015, Australia won the Asia Cup. That's a competition that I didn't think we were going to be able to win, but we did it anyways. And that was amazing for the country at the time and for football in the country at the time. That only happened because we have the Asia Cup. So I think there is an absolute necessity to have these continental tournaments, because it gives teams in these continents a chance of winning major international tournaments, because they don't have the same luxuries of winning World Cup like England have in 1966, or Argentina in 2022. So there's necessity there for it to be had. I think what we ultimately need to understand and figure out is the scheduling from a player's perspective, so that a player isn't hindered in, aka Mo Salah's situation where he's now not playing AFCON or for Liverpool.
Well, this is the state we're getting into, though. We're working our way towards another topic, but there's going to be some sort of pushback at some point, because players are already upset with the amount of games that are being proposed. You look at what FIFA's doing with the Club World Cup thing. Yep. Which is going to take away another pre-season. But then you also look at the expansion of the Champions League.
Not to mention on the international side of things, you have the Euro Nations League.
Yeah. Well, isn't the World Cup being expanded as well?
Is it now from 32 teams to how many?
I'm just double checking, but I'm pretty sure it's to 48 teams.
Interesting.
2026, 48 teams take part in this. Go. Yeah, there's 45 qualifying nations plus 3 host countries. Then the European, I think the Euros is due to expand. It's all coming to a head. Lots of this is coming to a head in football. Money.
Yep.
Like the minutes.
Money talks. Money dictates.
Well, money does to an extent, but we're even seeing this in other sports where it doesn't necessarily work. You can even look at something like the NBA where it's a sticking point because it devalues the product to an extent. This is the first time in that league where they had to turn around and make sure people weren't sitting out games or players weren't sitting out too many games. That's what it's going to come down to. People are going to be injured. Look at the amount of ACL injuries this year. At some point, it's going to actually cost them the product.
Yeah.
So
that's like going back to you think about ACLs. Like I remember earlier in the season, we were talking about having an ACL 11 and it being quality enough to go and win the Champions League. You know, like, and that's testament to how injury ravished a lot of players have become because of the amount of games that they have to play.
Yeah.
But ultimately, a lot of it, Ben, is because of money, right?
Well, yeah. Sadly.
Yeah.
But money makes the world go round.
More games, more TV times.
It does, but from an individual player's perspective,
it's not
is it taking away from their career playing 3-4 games a week? Yeah. Talk about longevity. Talk about players wanting to, and a lot of players come in wanting to win titles. A lot of players come in wanting to break records. You can't break records if you're not going to be able to have a career at a club. That it comes back to longevity ultimately, and you're taking away from a player's longevity by forcing them to play multiple competitions in domestic football and international football as well.
It's going to be interesting what the next few years bring up in football. I think there's going to be a lot more change. To go back to the original question.
Yes. So back to the original question, should continental tournaments like AFCON and the Asia Cup be held outside of the European football season? Just a yes or no.
I'm happy to trial it.
I feel like it should be, yeah. And it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to clash with the Euros.
Yeah.
It can be, doesn't have to fuck the Euro. You said it. Euros happen once every 4 years. So, yeah, I agree. I feel like it should be outside of the season.
Yeah. And I'm going to echo both of you. I absolutely agree. I think there's room. If there's room for it to be trialled, then why not give it a go? What's the harm in trying something, you know?
If it stops that fucking Club World Cup thing and give us something more meanuful, then I'm all for it.
That's fair enough. And I think a very good way to end that segment. And just looking at the time, I did say that we had a surprise segment locked in and ready to go. But I'm thinking, just given how long the last two segments have already been and how long the episode's already gone for today, that we wrap things up there.
Yeah.
If you really want to hear what that surprise segment is, tune in next week, I guess.
Yep. And just the last thing, please share this with friends, family, let them abuse us if they need to, but just get the word out there because we enjoy doing this and we want to hear more people and more feedback. So
that's all right.
Hope you enjoy it and see you next week.
Well, we'll catch you next week, but our dearly beloved Stu is fucking off, baby. Isn't he? Where are you going, mate?
Going to India for 3 weeks.
Fuck yeah, you are.
He's doing a tennis training camp.
But I'll be back. Might see some surprise guests on the show. You never know.
You never know what we've got in store. So again, if you want to find out more, please tune in next week.
All right. Bye for now.
Goodbye. Yeah.